Welcome to Travis Teaches Guitar. I'm your relationship counselor for this instrument. Crossed my mind the other day when I was making a video because I used a little tool I'm going to tell you about today. I haven't really covered it, and thought I could probably expand a little bit on it and tell you guys a little bit about it. This tool is this, and a lot of times you'll see guitar players with it clamped on here. It's called a capo. Interesting little contraption. It's not really all that complicated. It's basically just a clamp. It's got a rubber piece in here that goes across the top of the string, and then this clamps on the neck like that. I'll show you like such. It's a capo is what that's called. C-A-P-O. And it's designed really to allow you to get an open chord. And what I mean by open chord is like your G's, your C's. Your guitar lends itself well to those types of chords. Some call them cowboy chords, but they're certainly not limited to cowboys. Everybody uses them, and especially on acoustic. If you're accompanying your voice, then generally, most people, especially in the beginning, that's the chords that are available to you until you get a little bit more advanced. And you can basically fake any song with these chords, with these open chords, until you start getting into bar chords and stuff like that. But this capo here, what it is designed to do, you see this nut? That's what this is called, is a nut here. It's where the strings end. So you got your first fret, second, third, and so forth. This kind of raises the pitch wherever you want to put it. Kind of makes the guitar neck shorter, if you would. Therefore, it makes a pitch of the strings. It's in the same standard tuning, but pretend that we had sliced the neck off here, and now this was the nut. So we can still play. Otherwise, in order to play the same chords like that, I would have had to bar it off here, and that's not fun. That can be very tricky, especially up here at the top like that. That's hard it's a good stretch on your fingers. So somebody somewhere along the line come up with this right here to act as that first finger, because essentially you have to bar everything off with that first finger and then make the chords here. So if I wanted to make a G chord, for example, my first finger would have to be barring this part off, holding all the strings down, basically, and then still making this shape of chord. And that can be a bit of a stretch, especially in the beginning. And it somehow doesn't usually end up being as pretty unless your hands are really strong. And if you're playing it strong, you don't want to be making those kinds of big movements. It's just as easy to use this little tool here, this capo. So I want to hear, so if you can hear the difference, I'll make a pretty extreme. There's my G chord in its normal sense. I'll put it down here. See how more high pitched it is? Play the same thing without the capo. See, it's way different. That it has a lot of different uses, not just this, but primarily that is how it is used in music. I made a video about playing by ear, and I typically will use this depending on the music, especially if it's country music or rock music. Sometimes it's not relegated to really any certain kind of music. All styles of music, except for jazz and classical, you're not going to see them using it, and I don't particularly like to use one. And if I can get away with just making the chords normal, then I will just do that rather than use this. But that's just a personal preference. Once you start playing and you start learning more chords and things like that, then you don't need this as much. But it comes in handy, especially when you're trying to figure out songs and such, because you can that's number one. That's generally what they're doing, is that they have a capo on it, and that's how you're going to get that sound of these open chords. It's so pretty on the guitar. So I've seen people use it in like as an alternate tuning. This isn't the common way of doing it, but I have seen a few people doing it, and you can kind of get a drop D sound going on of it. I have it in the wrong place, right there. So you got this, which is your E, and now we've switched this chord. So now my D has become an E, and you have this. Kind of giving you a drop D kind of a sound. They make a lot of different types. This is the most common type, but they've gotten a lot better with them in the years. The problem with this type is that it's really tight. If you can see the spring in there, there's no adjustment to that. It's just tight and tighter depending on which one you have. If you have it for a long time, then this can loosen up a little bit, but it's still tight, and if they're tight enough, it has a tendency when you put it down, if you're not careful, it will pull the strings one way or the other, and then it'll be out of tune. But if you use them often enough, you learn how to put it on very carefully. My favorite type of capo is called the G7th, which is, it's spring loaded, and it comes more straight down, and you squeeze it on there and it'll stay there. However tight you want it to be, that's where it'll stay until you flip a lever. You can look it up online. It's called the G7. G7th, something like that. But it's a capo, and they're kind of expensive. When they first came out, I was on a wait list for it because I knew that was a game changer for capos. Now I don't really even use one. But what it does is it just clamps down straight and it stays there. And it's got a little lever in the back that you flip. But there's capos that you can strap on with a cloth. You know, there's homemade capos people make. There's capos that like are in a U shape and then you screw them down on top. There's all kinds of different ones. It just depends. There's some that you can roll and move as you play, or just, you know, it'll bar certain strings and not others, so it'll imitate open tuning and such. So they're pretty cool. But yeah, that's what that is. It's a capo, and it's basically just used to change the key of a song and still maintain an open chord. Since that is what the guitar really sounds good in doing, is open chords. So why not, right? So go get you one. I recommend it. Don't lean on it as a crutch, but certainly give it a try and see what you can do with it. Okay? Till then, keep practicing.